Dak Prescott's ankle. Dak Prescott's ankle injury became one of the most unforgettable moments in recent NFL history because it happened in broad daylight and instantly shifted the Cowboys' entire season. Prescott had been carrying Dallas with record passing numbers, and his leadership kept them competitive even as the roster around him fractured. But when his foot twisted in a direction no ankle should ever face, the stadium fell silent and the shock rippled across the league. The damage was severe, and the Cowboys quickly unraveled without him, exposing just how thin their margin for error truly was. Fans wondered if he would ever return to his old form, and critics questioned whether Dallas had pushed him too hard. But what happened next revealed even more questions and raised the stakes in ways nobody saw coming that year. Alex Smith's leg. Alex Smith's leg injury stands as one of the most disturbing quarterback injuries ever recorded, not only because of the initial break, but because of everything that followed. When his tibia and fibula snapped on that routine play, Washington fans thought the season was over, but nobody imagined the cascading complications that nearly cost him far more than football infections, surgeries, and months of uncertainty turned a simple recovery into a fight that pushed him into national headlines. His determination to return became a symbol of resilience, and his comeback was praised across every corner of the league. But the danger behind his journey was staggering. Questions surfaced about Washington's protection, the pressure he faced, and whether he should have stepped away sooner, and the situation grew even more dramatic as new details emerged later. Joe Theismann's leg. Joe Theismann's leg injury remains one of the most notorious moments in football history because of how suddenly it ended a franchise quarterback's career and shook the entire nation. On what seemed like an ordinary play, Theismann dropped back, and within seconds, Lawrence Taylor's tackle created a fracture so gruesome that even hardened players recoiled in disbelief. The stadium fell into stunned silence as medical staff rushed in, and fans immediately knew this wasn't just another injury. Theismann's leg had snapped in catastrophic fashion, leaving no path for a comeback and no doubt about the severity of the moment Washington's offense collapsed afterward. And many players admitted they never emotionally recovered that season. His career ended instantly, but the ripple effects across the league continued for years and shaped how people viewed quarterback vulnerability forever. Aaron Rodgers' Achilles. Aaron Rodgers' torn Achilles during his Jets debut felt like a football earthquake because the entire league had spent months building anticipation for a new era in New York 4 plays into the first drive. That hope evaporated as his leg buckled, and the energy inside the stadium flipped from electric to horrified. The Jets had built their roster around Rodgers' presence, loading up on veterans who believed he could lift them to a championship, but that dream collapsed instantly. The injury raised questions about the turf at MetLife Stadium, Rodgers' long-term durability, and whether New York had gambled too heavily on a quarterback. Nearing 40 fans were devastated, teammates were stunned, and analysts immediately shifted the conversation toward the Jets' future. And the fallout only grew as speculation about his comeback began circulating. Tony Romo's back. Tony Romo's back injury in 2016 quietly transformed the entire trajectory of the Dallas Cowboys because it arrived at the same moment a rookie named Dak Prescott was trying to earn a role Romo had spent years carrying Dallas through chaotic seasons, and many believed he still had Pro Bowl production left. But one preseason hit against Seattle changed that outlook immediately. The fracture in his vertebra sidelined him for months, forcing the Cowboys to hand the offense to Prescott sooner than anyone expected. As Dallas kept winning, the franchise faced an uncomfortable truth about its future, and Romo watched his starting job evaporate from the sideline. His eventual retirement felt abrupt, and fans were left wondering what a healthy Romo could have done with that talented roster. And it changed everything for Dallas forever. Andrew Luck's kidney. Andrew Luck's kidney injury marked the beginning of a downward spiral that slowly drained the joy out of a career once destined for Canton. After carrying the Colts through battered rosters and constant hits, Luck suffered a lacerated kidney that forced him to miss significant time, and the damage extended beyond the stat sheet. The pain lingered, the rehab dragged on, and every setback chipped away at his enthusiasm for the game. He kept trying to push through, returning in bursts that reminded everyone how talented he was. But the toll on his body kept stacking higher. Shoulder problems, calf issues, and endless rehab cycles turned football into a burden instead of a passion. Fans were blindsided when he retired at just 29, but those close to the team knew the physical cost fully. Carson Wentz's knee. Carson Wentz's knee injury during the 2017 season felt like the cruelest plot twist imaginable because he had transformed into the league's most dynamic young quarterback and was barreling toward the MVP award. Philadelphia looked unstoppable, and Wentz kept creating highlight plays that pushed the Eagles toward the #1 seed, but everything changed on that scramble into the end zone against Los Angeles' ACL tore, and the season instantly shifted from joyful dominance to uneasy hope as backup Nick Foles stepped in. The strange part is how Foles then delivered a historic postseason run that overshadowed Wentz's breakthrough year and created a controversy that lingered for seasons. Fans debated whether Wentz could reclaim his role, and analysts wondered how the franchise would navigate the tension, and the fallout only intensified as the years. Robert Griffin III's knee. Robert Griffin III's knee collapse in the 2012 playoffs became a turning point for Washington because it showed how fragile a franchise's future can be when desperation overrides caution. Griffin had just delivered a brilliant rookie season that reignited the fan base and expectations soared. But his injured knee was pushed back into action far too early. On the soaked field against Seattle, it finally gave out in a moment that stunned viewers and shifted the entire direction of the franchise. The setback shattered Griffin's confidence, strained the locker room, and sparked questions about whether the coaching staff had jeopardized everything to chase one postseason win. His career never regained its early magic. Afterwards too. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Tom Brady's knee injury in 2008 delivered one of the most shocking season openers in league history because the Patriots entered the year with unstoppable momentum after their near-perfect campaign. Expectations were massive, and Brady looked poised to continue rewriting the record books. But one awkward hit from Bernard Pollard changed that instantly. His ACL tore, and the football world froze as realization set in that the most dominant team in years had just lost its leader in the first quarter of the first game. Backup Matt Cassell stepped in and somehow kept New England competitive. But the offense lost its firepower, and the playoff hopes evaporated. Fans debated how vulnerable the Patriots truly were without Brady directing everything. And while he made a strong comeback the next season, the injury reshaped how people viewed his durability. Dan Marino's Achilles. Dan Marino's Achilles tear in 1993 was devastating because Miami had one of its best shots at returning to the Super Bowl since the mid-1980s. Marino started the season on fire, dissecting defenses with ease and giving fans renewed hope that the Dolphins had finally surrounded him with enough talent to make a deep run. But on a harmless-looking play against Cleveland, his Achilles ruptured and brought everything to a halt. Miami still found ways to win games afterward, but the offense looked nothing like the precision machine Marino had been running. The injury forced him to change his footwork and mechanics when he returned the next year, reminding everyone that even the strongest arms can be undermined by fragile ligaments, and the missed opportunity still stings for Dolphins fans, who felt that this was their year. Derek Carr's leg. Derek Carr's broken leg in 2016 hit the Raiders like a nightmare because they had finally built a contender after more than a decade of frustration. The team was winning close games, the offense was explosive, and Carr was playing like a legitimate MVP candidate. All that momentum collapsed the moment his fibula snapped during what should have been a routine play late in the season. Oakland's playoff hopes disappeared instantly, and fans could feel the energy drain out of the franchise as backup quarterbacks struggled to keep the offense alive. The Raiders entered the postseason with a shadow of what they once were, and the loss derailed the progress they had worked so hard to build. Carr was never quite the same player after that injury, and the what if still hangs over the team's history. Trent Green's knee. Trent Green's knee injury in 1999 transformed the entire future of the Rams because it opened the door for one of the most unexpected stories in league history. Green had been brought in to run a revamped offense built around explosive weapons, and the preseason hype suggested he could push St. Louis into contention, but when his knee buckled after a low hit from Rodney Harrison, everything changed in an instant. The injury forced the Rams to turn to backup quarterback Kurt Warner, a player most fans had barely heard of. Warner then engineered an improbable MVP season and a championship run that became legendary. Green watched from the sideline as a team built for him became the greatest show on turf, and the ripple effects of that injury still get discussed whenever people talk about destiny in sports. Joe Montana's elbow. Joe Montana's elbow injury in the early 1990s altered the course of two franchises because it arrived at the worst possible time for a dynasty that seemed invincible. Montana had already built a legacy with multiple championships and was still performing at an elite level, but a hit in the NFC Championship, followed by a preseason elbow injury, forced him out of action for nearly 2 full seasons. Steve Young stepped in and became a superstar, creating an uncomfortable quarterback debate that split the fan base. Montana's eventual trade to Kansas City shocked the league, and the images of him wearing a different uniform symbolized the end of an era. His injury didn't just sideline him physically, it reshaped the power structure of the NFL, and fans still argue about what more he could have achieved without that setback. Drew Bledsoe's chest. Drew Bledsoe's chest injury during the 2001 season might be the most consequential non-career ending injury in football because of the chain reaction it triggered. When Mo Lewis delivered that crushing hit along the sideline, few realized immediately how serious the internal damage was. Bledsoe suffered a sheared blood vessel that required urgent medical attention, and New England was forced to turn to 6th-round backup Tom Brady. What followed became one of the most improbable rises in sports history. As Brady took control of the team and led them on a championship run, Bledsoe never regained his starting job, and the Patriots began a 20-year dynasty built on that single unexpected moment. The injury completely shifted the direction of the franchise and permanently altered the legacies of everyone involved. Bert Jones's shoulder. Bert Jones's shoulder injury in the late 1970s removed a rising superstar from the NFL. Right when he looked ready to take over the league, Jones had been electrifying, strong-armed, and fiercely competitive, leading the Colts to multiple winning seasons while earning praise from players who believed he was the most gifted passer of his generation. But when the shoulder problems hit in 1978, everything fell apart quickly. His throwing strength faded, the accuracy slipped, and the once promising Colts offense deteriorated around him. The injury robbed him of what could have been a Hall of Fame career and left Baltimore searching for stability for years afterward. Fans still talk about how good Jones could have been if his body had held up longer. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.